Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Obsessively Yours by Anise Storm, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Prologue, Charlie, Manhattan, New York. 2 years earlier. Brian and Mason's wedding was pure magic, and the fact that it took place just before Christmas made it even more enchanted. Chicago was gorgeous this time of year, but nothing like New York City. I not only got to ring in the holiday with romance, but with gratitude as well. When I'd first tagged along with the others, I thought it was for moral support or to satisfy my own fantasy of one day being a bride. I'd never imagined that the actual bride would ever ask me to be a part of her special day. I loved everything about the night, despite the soreness in my feet from trying to break in a new pair of Alexandra Vauthier heels. The song choices, food selection, bridal party dress colors, flowers, and most importantly, the man who walked beside me as I joined Ryan's other bridesmaids. Daxon Faulkner was a titan, and someone I knew all too well. Although he was 5 years older than me, I'd had the biggest crush on him ever since I was 13 years old and had watched him graduate from high school. Whenever my former bestie, Harper Grimes, would go on and on about Gabriel Blake, I would lie back and picture myself walking down the aisle to someone too. Only, in my fantasies, the man had always been the tall, dark, and handsome titan who dominated my every waking thought. Even today, I was so nervous just being this close to him that I nearly stumbled twice. The fantasy had technically come true, or at least as true as it ever could come for us. We weren't about to say our own vows, but we watched friends of ours say theirs. Throughout them, I could hardly concentrate, especially whenever my gaze would wander in a certain direction. Daxon had the waviest dark hair and the most incredible black eyes I had ever seen. The years had been very good to him, and he continued to age like a fine wine. Whenever I was out with friends of ours, I often found myself staring longingly at him. He was not only drop dead gorgeous, but he was also very successful. A psychiatrist who owned his own practice was exactly the type of man my father would love for me to marry one day. And oftentimes I wondered if my relationship status worked against me where my father was concerned. I kept trying to tell myself that it was crazy to even think that. Unfortunately, I suspected it was my lack of stability in my love life that had kept me from moving further up the corporate chain at Mitchell's. What do you mean you've given the managing position? What do you mean you've given the managing director's position to Lenny Plesk? I have some really good ideas, Daddy. The fall line of exactly, Charlene. Your vision is very valuable, and it's the reason I'm making you the head of the women's department. Leave the more important stuff to Lenny. Even now, I was used to the way women, especially those in the corporate world of the Titans, were denigrated. Having been told that just last week before heading to New York City for this wedding still had me in a funk. For once, all I wanted was for my own father to recognize my worth and reward me for it, instead of others less qualified simply because they had a dick in their pants. I'm so proud of you, Ryan, I heard the bride's father say to her before he twirled her around on the dance floor with butterfly kisses playing in the background. Tears had sprung to my eyes, and I thought I had blinked them away before anyone could see them, but my dancing partner had noticed. When the song finished, Daxon pulled me off the dance floor. I couldn't recall a single time I had ever heard my father say those words to me, and it made me realize that perhaps I was as replaceable as he made me feel. I wouldn't cry over him or his obvious feelings about my value, especially in front of a man I'd crushed over for half of my life. What's the matter, Charlie? You looked like you were about to break down out there. I'm fine, I managed to get out, but the way his brow arched let me know he wasn't convinced. The man was used to drawing things out of the most unwilling of people, and I was honestly afraid of what he would pull from me if ever given the chance. And with me, there was so much there, from my daddy issues to my fantastical crush on Daxon. Do you want to get a drink? He asked, and I nodded. Alcohol, I could use that, and lots of it. I followed him over to the bar, and after we both had a shot of tequila in our hands, we made our way over to one of the tables. From our vantage point, we could see all of Rockefeller Center, including the famed Christmas tree, which drew a crowd every year. Ryan had told us all about her and Mason's confession of love and then later proposal and how it had taken place in the very spot my eyes were now glued to. Their entire love story was a fairy tale. I had once dreamed of my own, but I couldn't even get my father to love and support me, so a man would be a much harder task. My love life looked bleak, and it was the reason I slammed back the liquor despite the fact that Daxon was staring intently at me. You're slamming back shots while looking like you're about to cry at any moment, Charlie. We've known each other most of our lives. Something's wrong, and I wish you would just tell me what it was. I could possibly. You can't help me with what ails me, unfortunately, I told him. Well, Daxon maybe could, but I preferred to keep my unrequited feelings to myself. This little spectacle was embarrassing enough. I didn't need to spill my deepest desires to a man with little interest in fulfilling them. I'd like to try. If you won't talk to me, then maybe we could dance some more, he offered. It's my feet, I lied, thinking quickly on the spot. These heels are killing me right now. I should have known better than to wear a brand new pair to the reception. Would you like to sit down or leave even? I nodded at the latter. Is your hotel still next door? When I nodded again, he added, Let me help you to your room. I wanted to decline, but I realized staying here only drove home the point that both my career and love life were in the pits. I would just go back to my room, raid the wet bar, and lament over things that seemed unfixable. After, I would use one of the toys I'd brought when out with the girls earlier this week and imagine a very different ending to this night with the man of my dreams. Deciding it was better to leave with him than by myself, I finally responded, Sure. We left, and it wasn't until I was alone in the elevator with him that I realized what a monumental mistake this was. His scent enveloped me, with which made those foolish feelings come rushing forward even more. I closed my eyes, quickly imagining that we were lovers rushing back from an event, only he wouldn't be standing there looking down at his phone as we quickly ascended the floors, but instead pinning me to the wall so he could ravage me. The elevators chimed, and I let out a soft exhale. Once the doors opened, I had no sooner stepped through them when I was swept up in Daxon's arms. They were strong, comforting, and they made me feel secure. If this was what having a man in your life was like, I wanted one like yesterday. Only I didn't just want anyone. I wanted him. Daxon. As he carried me down the hallway, I lay my head against his chest, inhaling the scent of his soap and cologne, the mixture making me more than a bit heady. 3315? He asked, and I was the one to arch a brow this time upon realizing that he knew my room number. There were many questions I had, but he likely had a very plausible reason for knowing it, so I kept them to myself. Yes. I wiggled enough in his arms to grab my purse and then rummaged through it for my keycard. He snatched it from my hand, and seconds later, he carried me over the threshold. A sarcastic laugh almost escaped as I realized he was not some doting groom on our wedding night, but a stand-up guy who simply wanted to make sure I got inside. In Chicago, oftentimes, the Titans got a bad rap. Most consider them arrogant playboys. While not wrong, there was more to at least some of them than meets the eye, and tonight was proof of that. Daxon carried me over to the desk, then gently sat me atop it. His hands immediately went to my feet, and once he had freed them from their strappy bonds, I let out a moan. He took one of them in his hand, and while he massaged it, my entire body came alive at his touch. That feels so much better, I told him. Thank you. No thanks are necessary, Charlie. I just hope it helps. If he only knew how much it did. I nodded profusely, then dropped my head back as he moved from one foot to the other. Damn, this only reminded me that I needed to book a massage as soon as possible. Since I plan to return to Chicago tomorrow, I might even be able to get Larita, my normal masseuse, to make a house call. Daxon's touch sent warmth spreading throughout my entire body, and when he finally dropped my foot, I sat back up fully and our eyes met. His were dark, even darker than usual, and a frisson of excitement penetrated me before racing like adrenaline through my bloodstream. This entire day, night, I wasn't quite sure what he was getting at, but I murmured in agreement before adding, It's been such a magical time. Magic is one word, I suppose, he replied, and then reached out to cup the side of my face with one hand. What word would you use then? I stammered as my nerves started to mess with me. Strange. Strange, how? I don't know, he told me, all while taking his thumb and slowly as all the while his thumb was slowly stroking my chin. Take us, for example. Us? My breath hitched in my throat and I was afraid to even breathe. Yeah, I should be leaving you alone right now, but But I don't think I could leave even if I wanted to. Daxon leaned in, and his warm breath in my face was even more of a turn on. God, how badly I wanted him to kiss me. He was so close. His lips were just a hair's breadth away from mine. Then don't, I told him, causing his head to whip back sharply. Stay with me. Charlie, he said moments before groaning. Before I could take back those words, he wrapped his hand around my throat and pulled me close. His mouth came down hard on mine, and I surrendered fully to him.